Hey guys, I wanted to check in and talk some about the instructional unit now that we're really jumping into that head first, feet first, everything first. But let me say first, I was gonna post this earlier. I have had trouble with my phone. They had to send it off for repairs, and I'm waiting on a temporary password so I can get into Blackboard. So as soon as I can do that, I'll post this for you guys. But keep in mind that if you recall, I gave you the information about high stakes, low stakes. We're in the part of the low stakes learning that's going on right now as we get started even thinking about what an instructional unit is. I know probably most, if not all of you, have never done this, or if you have, you've done very little. And the other thing too is every time I teach this class or any class about writing, I find that one of the main things we have to do is just get rid of a lot of the wrong thinking about writing that we've encountered, and because a lot of the traditional ways of thinking writing are just very limited and don't really allow for much student-centered learning. So anyway, I tell you that because I don't want you to worry that this is hard. You don't know what you're doing. It's hard to figure out, and there's no way I can give you the exact do this and this is the way to do it. But we're doing this. We're practicing it. We will look at the unit goals and the rationales several times as we go through creating the instructional unit, and certainly things will change. You'll be able to talk about the rationale better. You'll be able to talk about the goals better. But anytime you do something like this, it's not even just in teaching, it's any kind of job, you have to put together a plan as to what you're going to do, and then you have to connect it to why, something to show why you're doing it. And usually those are the goals of whatever group or organization or project you're working on. So anyway, I wanted to give you some points as you're working on this to kind of think about. First of all, you need to use all your tools. If you're not looking in the updates forum and keeping up with that, I put a lot of stuff in there. I'm always posting things to try to help you guys. And I know one of the things that I think this information is even in the first info about the instructional unit, but this is one of the sources that goes along with the Smagorinsky book, and this has got tons and tons and tons of examples of instructional unit stuff, and you can see they're not all alike, and your instructional units won't all be alike either because you're all doing different things for different purposes. But there's lots here that you can look at and get some really good examples. And then I also posted some information as to where to look for those of you who are teaching the earlier grades. And so make sure that if you haven't checked that stuff out, that you take a look, because I'm not expecting you, these instructional units, the biggest majority of it can be activities you find that you work them into, your own individual project, because there's so much out there. I mean, even if you think you're creating, a brand new activity or whatever, it's probably going to be similar to something that's out there. But so anyway, I picked one that I wanted to talk a little bit about. Now you can see this is very much a finished product, and we're not anywhere near close to that. But you want to look at these models to help you, see where we're trying to get. So you can see rationale, goals and rubrics. This is laid out a little bit differently, but this person still has rationale, and he still has his goals in there. So if you go down through here, rationale, explaining, what he's picked and why. And then you can see he gives some background info. I'm not really looking for y'all to have a lot of this, kind of research info, GA Hull. We'll pick up some of that as we go along, but there may be some things in the Smagorinsky book you can use as you talk about, why are you doing what you're doing? And really, that's the main thing that we're focused on in this class is when we work with writers, why do we do what we do? Why do writers do what they do? We want to know the why and not just pick something because that's what we are used to doing, or that's what you think I'm looking for, or Smagorinsky's looking for, but we want to ask those good questions as to why, and be able to explain that. Here you can see this approach to teaching satire follows from Standard 1 set by the IRA NCTE. And so I guess that was the skills set they were looking at, skill standards. So in your rationale, you're definitely going to want to put in, one of the things I had you do was choose from the TEKS, what you wanted to focus on. So you're definitely going to want to put that in there. And I think when you look at the questions about writing a rationale on page, what page is this? 127. Why am I teaching this unit and its concepts? This is part of the why, because these are the skills that you've chosen from the TEKS, and that's what you're focusing on. And you're going to want to talk about why you're focusing in your unit, topic, theme, or story, or whatever you're doing. I want just a little bit about that. When you do these instructional units, they don't have to be based on literature. I mean, they can be, but there's so many other types of text out there that you can use. Your unit has to have the students work on writing in some way. And it's not writing for an English class. Pick whatever area you're going to work in. So don't think you have to do a poem or a short story or whatever. There's all kinds of text out there that you can engage with, both in reading and studying them and in creating them. And, in the Smagorinsky book, he talks a lot about, a lot of the different options that we may not typically think of. And then you can see here more detail on the skills. And they're here he's talking in general about what's going on. Okay, in the remaining paragraphs, I'll explain the unit's approach to its various texts. And the goals is where Smagorinsky talks about the text. He's got in-process text and activities, and culminating text and activities. And that's on page 133. So in your unit goals, you need to have both of those sections. You need to talk about both of those. Text, and like I said, text don't have to be literary text. They can be other kinds. And then when it says activities under the in-process text and activities, you can see where Smagorinsky has two examples that he's going to use: the double column reading logs and the student-led discussions. Now, you need to have at least two, and here again, these can change, or you can kind of tweak them as we go. We're getting started and thinking about what we might want to do, so keep remembering that. But you do want to pick, for this number one, in-process text and activities. What do you think you're gonna overall want to look at? Do you want to have a theme? Do you want to look at a strategy? Do you want to look at a skill? Do you want to look at an event that happened? Do you want to learn how to do certain kinds of writing? Could be writing lab reports. You could do a whole 7-week instructional unit on writing lab reports for, a science class, and not have any literature in there at all. And then the culminating texts and activities, you want to think about, let's see, with Smagorinsky on 136, he's doing an extended definition and a multimedia project. Now, this student, let me see if I can find the, go back up here. This student is using, I think it's under 13, 14, must be there somewhere. Let's see. This student said he wanted to use a portfolio, but I wanted to talk a minute about portfolios because I know Smagorinsky talks about it. Okay, materials. Here's a list of, like, these would be specific text that, you'd use. Let's see, assessment, goals. Okay, here's goals. And here again, these goals are going to come from the TEKS. You're not having to make these up. He broke his out into 3 sections. I would say for right now, just kind of think about 6. Try maybe 6 things you're going to do. 6 activities. You can put them in sections later. You might not do all 6. I just say that because to me it seems like kind of an easy way to start. We know we're going to have 7 weeks. I always think of the last week is when you're going to do your, that's when you're going to finish up and you'll make sure the culminating text are finished. Let's see, elements. Well, I'm not seeing it right now, but I know he did put in here that he wanted to use portfolios, but one of the things he does talk about is for every section of the portfolio, he has them, like he's got 3 units, so he has them do this 3 times where the students do an evaluation of the work that they did for that week or 2 weeks, and the students evaluate each other, and then the teacher does an evaluation. So it's very much a process portfolio. It's not like, it's not like you just get to the end and you pick certain things and put them, stick them in a folder. Unfortunately, probably a lot of the portfolio work has been like that. You've had somebody to just tell you exactly what to put together, and it's a lot of times it's more for the ease of the teacher to kind of grade and see if things are there. But you do a portfolio to show a collection of work, and it's not always writing. Portfolios are used in everything. But you're bringing together a collection of work for some kind of purpose. You want to have something happen or show something. So don't just automatically pick portfolios. Really, over a 7-week period, you're not going to have a lot of things to put in a portfolio. I mean, a portfolio is, going to represent, a good amount of time. Otherwise, you probably don't have enough for a portfolio. But think about, what are the other things you can do? And these don't have to be big things. I mean, I think, we have in our mind that a culminating, text has to be, huge, like a research paper maybe. But those are just all those things you need to get out of your head because you've been, you really haven't been given a good way to think about writing when you think about it in those limited ways. So, look at some of the things Smagorinsky talked about. Go out there and look at, different kind of assessment activities. But your assessment is going to be tied to the TEKS. So whatever this TEKS says the skills are that the students should be able to do, that's what your assessment should be showing. There's different ways to do that, and I'll help you a lot with this. I mean, really everybody should take an assessment class. We have one at the graduate level. I don't know, maybe in the College of Ed they have one, but it's so very important, and it's another thing we really don't know much about, or we've got a lot of misinformation about. But your TEKS are what the assessment's going to. So don't just pick something just because you think it would fit, or it sounds good, or you think it would be fun, or whatever. I mean, not that any of that's bad, but the point of the assessment is to show that the writers can do those skills. So anyway, I'll stop there because there's quite a bit more, but I hope that kind of helps you as you're trying to put together, this first round of thinking and, writing stuff and trying to figure out what we're doing. So you're all doing great as long as you're thinking, and the more unsure you are of what you're doing, probably the better, because that probably shows that you're moving out of that limited thinking, that those misconceptions. But don't let that make you think you're not doing a good job, or that you're not going to be able to get this done, because we're going to do a lot of process work with it, low stakes process work. And so just, think about what Smagorinsky's giving you, what we're seeing in the other readings, things I'm talking about, and just, keep working and doing the best you can, because all of your ideas are good. All right, thanks a bunch, and I really appreciate everybody's hard work, so keep it up.